Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So in today's video I'm going to be doing short form comic strips. Many popular artists and YouTubers usually do it, and I've always wanted to make comics. It's just that I'm starting out, so I decided to do something small and simple and hopefully make an entire series based off of it. Many YouTubers and artists have done it, like the Odd Ones Out. He's made short form comic books and I wanted to give that a try. So with this one I wanted to do more like an embarrassing story of the main character and the antagonist kind of cleaning up the house, and at the end of the video I wanted to make a YouTube short of it, of the entire story. So let's get into it. So, as I said, I wanted to do a comic book strip. So when I ended up drawing these characters, I ended up freehanding it. And the thing about freehanding a comic book panel is that it's not really a good idea. You can do it if you want to, but it's best if you don't. After this video I did do character templates, so in the future I will be able to use those templates to make it easier keeping the character's facial structure and their body proportions consistent. But when it comes to developing a comic book, you always want your characters to be consistent. And the other thing I kind of messed up in this comic book strip was the characters were cramped most of the time. Anytime you introduce a character in a scene or you end up drawing a character in any comic book strip, you want to show the scene and show the entire body so it doesn't feel cramped most of the time, and that I didn't really do. But I ended up learning, and in the future I'm definitely gonna make sure I do not make the characters too cramped in the scene. Luckily, one of the rules I ended up not breaking is the 180-degree rule. The 180-degree rule, imagine it Imagine it as this. You have a plane, and on that plane there's an imaginary line. On the left side there's the camera, on the right side there's the antagonist and the main character. On each side you have character A on the left side and character B on the right side. Character A is your main character, while character B is your antagonist. So basically, you do not want your camera moving 180 degrees and having character B on the left side and character A on the left side. You want it swapped. You want both the characters on the exact same plane on your comic strip. In the entire strip, you want the character staying on the left side. If you put your main character A on the left side, keep them on the left side throughout the entire panel until you move to the next page. You can move them if you want. But you want to keep your character consistent and keep them on the same plane. Otherwise, if you swap the characters, it can be really disorienting to your reader. But if you want it to be disorienting, like for example, let's say they're in a car and the car gets rammed by a truck, and you want the entire scene to be disoriented and crazy and chaotic, then you can switch character. The small little details can affect how your entire panel turns out. But luckily with this comic strip I ended up doing, I kept the character on the same plane and I kept everything consistent. My main character was always on the left side and the antagonist was on the right side. Of course, it doesn't matter if your character's on the left or right side, it just matters that you keep them on that one side throughout the entire panel. And when I mean sheet, I mean individual pages. That's what I'm kind of doing with this. Instead of me creating a full-fledged story out of many other comic book sheets, I am doing one story for each comic book page. And with those collected pages over time, I may use them for other types of things. Because many comic books usually is an entire book with many sheets adding up to create an entire story. But the problem with that is it takes a lot of commitment, and also I am not experienced enough to do that yet. So I'm doing small sheets and small pages to create a story, and hopefully in the future I can take all those sheets and pages and combine them together to make a big story. So each sheet you can read at any order, any orientation, like you can read the first one, then the third, then the fourth, then fifth, then the 6th one, then the 10th one. It doesn't matter which order you read it. You can just read it in any order and you can still understand the story, because it's not combined story, it is many stories going through different pages. So you can read them at any time and read them at any calling, you know what I mean. You can read any page at any time and it doesn't need to be in order. And that's what I kind of want to do with this. So, you may be asking, what is a character sheet? Well, basically a character sheet is a sheet that has the character in its correct proportions. Every illustrator and comic book creator usually uses a character sheet. I don't know if they use a character sheet, I think they do, but I sometimes use a character sheet to make sure my character has the correct proportions. Some people can draw their characters off hot without needing a character sheet, but that's over time when you develop the muscle memory to draw the characters freehand. But to be honest, I haven't really developed the muscle memory to draw the characters freehand, but I've kept their style consistent, because if you keep their style simple and easy to execute, you won't need to worry about the small details over time. But as I did this comic panel, I actually had quite fun drawing all these characters and kind of creating the world and developing the entire story. It was quite fun, but when drawing a character, to be honest, when creating this webcomic, it was quite difficult to come up with my own original idea. Sometimes as you create your own webcomic, you'll have an idea, and then you end up creating the idea and it can be similar than someone else's, but those are sometimes a mistake. You shouldn't go around saying, oh, I created a webcomic, it's similar to this guy's, but it was by accident, air quotes. You shouldn't do that. You shouldn't really copy someone's idea. You should try and create your own idea, and that's what I want to do with this panel. It was quite difficult to come up with the idea, but when I finally had a story and a funny joke, I ended up following along with it. And even if it is similar to someone else's, if you create it and then you find out that your page is similar to someone else's, that's okay. But if you're busy creating the panel and you find out it's similar to someone else's, just come up with another panel. You shouldn't copy the person's idea. Plagiarism isn't a good thing. Always have your own ideas. But with this comic book panel, I already have a few panel ideas, but it's a bit more easier to get ideas when you already have your own characters, your own OCs, original characters, and I already have characters with these two characters. I already have their own laid out story and a little bit of lore behind them. I still have to flesh it out a bit more, but with these I'm not doing storyboarding. There are many great creators who did storyboarding, like Kiki's Delivery Service, the animated movie, didn't really have a storyboard. He just delved right into creating the story, and it's a really good animated movie. If you haven't watched it, I really recommend it. But I can't really do storyboarding because of certain reasons, but it won't really stop me from creating these comic strips, and I can do the storyboarding while I create each of the characters. But usually when I create this panel, I got the idea and I was thinking, how should I do the layout? Then I ended up creating the layout, fixing any parts I didn't like, and then I got the story that I wanted. But this story that I ended up creating is based off of a traditional piece of work that I ended up doing quite a while ago, and I just ended up digitizing it and giving it a bit more of a better look, refining it and doing it digitally. To be honest, I've seen many artists, when they do the coloring, they use gray scaling and they use gray tones, like they use different tones of grays and different tones of just grays, and then when they do the coloring, they pick the color like reds, blues, and then they set those colors to the tone that the gray colors were at. My program, I don't know if my program can do it, but I've seen many artists do it, so the gray tones don't match with each other, and the gray tones are exactly different from each other, so they don't blend together and look like the exact same color. I don't know how they do, I don't know the word for it. I think it may be called grayscaling, I don't know. But when it comes to coloring, I just freehand, I pick a cool color, then I just follow with that color, instead of, you know, using grayscaling. I'm just gonna call it that. I don't know if it's actually called that, probably not. But I just freehand the colors, go for whatever color looks nice to me, and use it. And I'm not really choosing to learn the basics of color, because I've seen that if you use opposite colors from the color wheel, it can make those colors really pop off each other, and there are many color theories that artists trying to follow. It's way too complicated, and I don't want to learn it. Thank you so much for watching the video, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. Bye.